Adam Saruwatari Xtreme, the Lamborghini Gallardo, my first Lambo. I've always referred to it as the G. Let's take a look at the G, specifically what modifications I did to differentiate mine from others. For those of you that aren't familiar, I'll just go through a quick overview. The strategy behind the G was to design a car that was more civilized, usable, and more cost-effective than the flagship V12s. That, of course, was because Audi purchased Lamborghini, and they wanted to make it more profitable. Well, we all know that they were very successful, and they've grown immensely. So, the basis of the G, all aluminum car, 5-liter V10, around 493 horsepower. Not much else has to be said. So, let's go to the front and start there with the modifications I've done to mine. I started with the Hamann full carbon fiber body kit. So if we look here at the front, we can see that the front nose addition was done there, and I had to actually have a custom skid plate made, matched body color of course, because the car was so low. Even though this car has a front lift, it was still very difficult to navigate around town. Livable, just difficult. So if we look in the front, I changed the grills to 2B carbon fiber grills. As you can see already, we've got the full carbon fiber theme going on here. My friends at MA Carbon built me windshield wiper washer covers, and Ewing built me this carbon fiber hood. And what I'll say about this hood is if you take a close look at the weave, it is of very high quality, and I've bought a lot of aftermarket parts. But oftentimes, for those of you that are looking for carbon fiber, the true story is told underneath the hood. So take a look at this. That is one of the nicest hoods I've ever seen done on the underside. The weave is still perfect, all the supports are in, and everything looks very nice. The hood is also much lighter than the factory unit. It's very rare, but just wanted to point that out. Now what we can do is we can kind of move over to the side, and I'll just run down what was done over here. You can see, of course, the Hamann carbon fiber side skirts continues on with the same theme of the kit. Up on top right here is where I changed the intakes. These are made by a company called Strut. I believe these are no longer available, but at the time I just had to have them. They were quite pricey, but I felt they were a necessity to tie everything together for the visual appearance. I always like to upgrade my wheels and tires and my brakes, because oftentimes when you upgrade the wheels, the brakes just don't look right. So originally, when I got the G, I had iForge build me a set of wheels, which I actually liked a lot. And then, of course, I wanted to upgrade the brakes to match. At the time, carbon ceramic brakes were in their infancy, and Lamborghini was having a ton of problems with squealing and noise, and so I didn't want to deal with that, even though I wanted carbon ceramics. So I found these brakes that were made by IMSA in Germany, and they were shipped over here. So what they are is they're 8-piston calipers in the front with 365mm rotors. In the back, it runs a 6-piston caliper with 335mm rotors. And the stopping power is tremendous. I've never had a problem with them, but what did come up was when I changed the brakes, the wheels that I had built did not fit. And unfortunately, with project car builds, all of you that are familiar with this know how this goes. So on my lift over there, the G was stuck with new brakes and no way to move because I had no wheels that would fit. So fortunately, after checking all the clearances, I figured out that there was only one wheel that was readily available that would fit, and that was the Hamann wheels. So therefore, I have the Hamann racing wheels. At the time, they were also very expensive, but they were the only thing available. So I got backed into a corner. So those of you building your project cars, learn from my mistake. Check into everything very closely before you move. So, moving around to the back. On the back here, of course, I always want to continue the same theme, so I use the 2B carbon fiber grills, and down here I use GMG's OE replacement carbon fiber diffuser. And the reason why I went with an OE diffuser is because the Hammond kit came with this attachment that expands the splitter on the rear diffuser. So of course that was also made for me in carbon fiber. So that kept everything tied together. On top, GMG had this carbon fiber rear hatch, and I installed a Lexan rear window above the engine to keep the weight down. And then above here I had a lightweight dry carbon, for those of you that know, pre-preg carbon fiber rear wing made. Now if we walk around over here, let's take a look at the interior. On the inside of the car, MA Carbon did me tons of favors. They built me tons of carbon fiber parts and made everything look really good. So I'll open the other door to allow more light in, and then I'll give you a quick rundown of what's in here. So if you take a look there, you already saw the carbon fiber door handles. You can see that the dash has been changed to carbon fiber. The center console, they made a nice shift knob, handbrake. All the air vents were changed. The center gauge cluster was also changed. Then to dress everything off, what I did was I had my seats custom upholstered to have the centers, the leather match the exterior. And of course, it's not complete without the Raging Bull. And then Dymex supplied me a carbon fiber and leather steering wheel. Continuing with the theme, it has a nice leather bull embroidered on the airbag. So pretty much tying everything together, that was done on the interior. Now if we move back here, we can take a look at the engine. Here in the engine compartment, you can see that I used all of 2B's carbon fiber panels to tie everything together, and then my good friend Mr. Agose built me this Group M carbon fiber intake. Group M carbon fiber intakes are phenomenal. I mean, you can get a close look at the weave there. They're all of that quality, and they usually make a very good tone that helps your intake sound. As all of you know, this is naturally aspirated, so I'm not going to claim that I got tons of power out of it, but the sound alone really makes it worth it for me. On the exhaust side, what I did was I had the Lamborghini and Newport Beach exhaust put on. But the interesting story about this is that originally I had carbon fiber tips that were made by 2B, which were extremely nice. Everyone would comment on them. The problem being, when I put the Lamborghini Newport Beach exhaust on, I removed the secondary cats, and I was producing tremendous amounts of heat, which is abnormal from a factory system. So actually, I'm lucky it didn't catch on fire and burn to the ground. It actually lit up and melted the exhaust tips and basically turned them into just a fabric material. But I caught it before there was any damage and before I turned into a flaming Gallardo going down the road, as many of you have seen on other YouTube channels. So for now, I went back to the factory tips, and sometime I will revisit that and probably change it to something else. When the G is on its own, it actually looks like a fairly good-sized car. However, when it's around its bigger siblings, the V12 models, the SV and the Mercy, that's when you really get an idea of how much smaller it truly is. Take a look at the difference in the rear end width of the G and the SV. Then if you look across the top of the Mercy, it really gives you a good perspective. And all that adds up to being a much easier car to drive around town. Now, let's go ahead and close everything up and take it out for a spin. I hope all of you enjoyed that blast we took in the back roads. I know I sure did. Getting back to the cars, this offers a great experience. I kept it in my family because it was the first Lambo I bought, and it has a manual transmission. As many that you are purists, you always want the manual. Honestly, for me, I like both. It depends on the day of which one I prefer more. But this way, I have the option of either. I kept the G because it was the first, and the Huracan does not offer the manual. So that's what I like to run. But for all of you that are possibly considering it, for the money, it's a heck of a value and still gives you that Lambo experience. That was a great time. I had a lot of fun. It's a good time to end on a happy note. So other than that, I'll see you next time.